Good morning, Daniel. That's a very philosophical question. And I find in the noise, confusion outside of music, but lots of chatter and TV's on, radio's on. It really confuses your mind. So in a solitude, that's where we find peace. That's where we find happiness and sometimes joy.
Honestly, I actually completely agree with Marva. It's a very philosophical question, and sometimes it can be kind of hard to answer. But yeah, I agree with her. Honestly, she took the words right out of my mouth.
Hi, Daniel. That's a good question. Sometimes people may be embarrassed by silence because it makes them confront what's really on their mind, whereas the noise, it just allows them to hide behind what they might really need to think about. So basically, that's why I feel they're embarrassed. But peace is so much better, especially when you have the peace of God.
Hey Marva, thanks for your response. Yeah, it is quite a philosophical question. I find that a lot of people were not comfortable with silence. I mean, I know I wasn't back in the day, and now I am because solitude is great. There is a lot of confusion in the noise. You're right about that, and sometimes you need to just filter it out, right? Recently, with the dear family, there's a lot of noise all the time. Some of us, some of you, some of all of us, I'm included in that, we love to talk and we love to communicate. And there's a lot of noise, but you know that it's a supportive environment. It is a family, and sometimes there's a lot of noise in the family, and you got to filter things out. But overall, you know that it's positive, it's a safe place, and you can just be yourself. Hey, it's good to hear from you again, Jess. Yeah, it is quite a challenging question to answer, and I find that when you're with someone that you feel comfortable with, you can be silent. Sometimes talking too much is a sign of being anxious and insecure. But if you know someone very close, you can be silent and be comfortable. So some people love the noise because while it may be confusing, they find comfort because they're not used to their own thoughts or hearing themselves think or talking to themselves, I guess. Um, so we find comfort in noise. So that's why some people always listen to music because they can't be alone and have silence with themselves.
Yeah, I know. I'm back. I'm feeling a lot more better. Um, but yeah, you're right. You're right. That's completely true. Sometimes silence and you're comfortable. Sometimes being in silence is comfortable. It's peaceful. Because sometimes talking too much, you're right, can show like either, I guess, insecurities or just being, anxious. So yeah, completely.
That is absolutely true. As I just said in the previous recording, basically people drown out the noise. They try to not think or confront themselves, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, um, by drowning out all that noise with music, with friends, with chatter, with talk, with all kinds of stuff. Right? Peace is very important. So I want to also say that I am reminded of scripture where we are like a deer panting for the water, and everyone knows Psalm 23. Um, he leads us by still waters, and there's peace and there's tranquility there, and there's almost a sense of silence and trust and peace, and It's beautiful.
I think a lot of times noise can be a distraction for a lot of people, and you don't really have to feel and deal with reality in an honest way. So a lot of times people prefer a more noisy environment where it's kind of chaotic because then you don't have to worry about things that are actually going on. Whereas others sometimes appreciate silence. Sometimes silence is more powerful than words, and which is why you see a lot of people they'll go out to nature and just appreciate, the stasis of something being silent.
100%. I love to go out to the forest, to the woods, and just spend a day there, just reflecting, thinking about things. And it's not noisy. I mean, there's like nature's noise or nature's music, as I call it. The wind blowing the trees, leaves rustling, the birds chirping, and I'm going to say tweeting. Yeah, I love nature, man.
Well, I think the reason you guys are embarrassed is because you care what other people think, what they're gonna say, or how they're gonna respond, and how they're gonna judge you guys for what you're talking about, you know. And that's that's like my opinion on that. Um, but yeah.
Hey Daniel, I don't think people, well, maybe some people are embarrassed by silence, but to me, some people truly do find peace and prefer silence. I can understand why people find comfort in noise because it makes them feel like they aren't so alone. If you are in isolation or you're not an independent personality, I suppose the silence would be pretty intense, but I think people don't feel so alone.
Stardust? I agree with that. Some people prefer solitude and are comfortable with silence, and some people are not. And that's completely fine. I mean, people are unique, everyone is different. I'm not saying everyone should be, one or the other. But I'm saying that we should not need to be embarrassed by silence, and we can find comfort in silence and in noise sometimes. So, on the other hand, I have seen experiments where people are placed in this room that is completely silent. It's like completely noise cancelling. And so, that kind of place, people may, and I think people do go crazy if they're in a complete vacuum. Like in space, I think people will go crazy. So, definitely not complete silence. Again, disclaimer, this is just a question. I'm not advocating one or the other. I'm just saying that we don't need to be embarrassed by silence. And some people may find comfort in noise, some people may find confusion in noise. And you need to know yourself, right? But sometimes you need to also push yourself to experience something that makes you uncomfortable. So there you have it.
I don't know that I've ever been embarrassed by silence. I actually prefer silence because that's when I have the clearest of minds, when everything's quiet. Other people are embarrassed by silence. When there's an awkward silence, I'm fine. I can sit in a room with someone and just have nothing but silence, and I'll be fine. But they will be uncomfortable. But, it's super easy to do that when all I do is just think. I may or may not have some sort of existential uh, daydream thing going on, but I can sit in a room that's completely silent for 3 hours and escape to some sort of other world in my mind. It's all the noise that I can't stand.